Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere unpleasant, but fascinating. You wake up to the sound of bamboo clattering in the wind, to the faint scent of incense mixed with something sour, old wine, sweat, and rotting fruit. Your head hurts. Your wrists ache. You don't remember much, except a hand pushing you through a doorway, a voice promising silver, and the way the lantern light flickered on red paper walls. Congratulations, it's your first night in a Qing Dynasty Brothel. You probably wouldn't last an hour here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment where you're listening from, and what time it is right now, because in this world, time doesn't move the same way. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's descend into tonight's story together. You open your eyes to find yourself lying on a low mat, wrapped in a blanket that smells faintly of other bodies. The air is humid, thick with perfume that tries and fails to cover the mildew. Above you hangs a paper lantern painted with characters you can't quite read. Shadows tremble on the walls like ghosts learning how to dance. A woman in jade bangles slides open the door. She doesn't speak. Her face is powdered white, her eyes outlined in kohl. She looks at you the way a butcher looks at meat before weighing it. You've been sold, not as a servant, not as an apprentice, but as property for pleasure. A Ziyagongzi, a brothel boy. There's no ceremony for it. No tears. The woman writes something on a ledger, the ink bleeding across the rice paper. And that's it. Your existence now has a price. Outside, the courtyard glows red. Lanterns swing above narrow alleys, each one marking a house like yours. Men in silk robes wander between them, laughing too loud, stumbling on cobblestones slick with wine and rain. Somewhere, a peepa plucks a mournful tune, slow, delicate, slightly out of tune. You hear whispers from the other boys, thin as reed flutes. Names traded like contraband. You, Lin, Sean. They're no longer real names, just decorations, chosen for the ears of paying guests. The madam gives you yours. Mayan, beautiful darkness. You're supposed to smile when she says it. You don't. She slaps you, lightly, the way one might test ripeness. Training begins before you've even eaten. You're shown how to kneel properly, how to pour tea so the sleeve of your robe drapes gracefully. You're told never to speak first, never to flinch, never to frown. They teach you to laugh at jokes you don't understand, to hold eye contact just long enough to seem interested, but not long enough to seem defiant. When you fail, and you will, there's punishment. Not the dramatic kind, no whips or chains. Just the quiet cruelty of deprivation. No rice, no rest, no warmth. You learn faster when hungry. Every surface here gleams with false beauty. Silk cushions, polished floors, lacquered screens. But lean close, and you'll see the cracks, the fingerprints in the paint, the grease from too many hands. The older boys tell you the rules at night, when the madam's footsteps fade and the house falls into its version of silence. They whisper about the regulars, the magistrate with trembling hands, the poet who cries afterward, the nobleman who likes to watch you eat peaches. You listen, wide-eyed, the smell of opium drifting from the next room. And somewhere in the courtyard, a bird sings. No one knows why. There's no cage, no tree, just the echo of something that shouldn't be alive here. You start to wonder who you were before this. You remember your mother's voice, maybe, a street by the river, the taste of boiled millet. You try to hold on to these things, but every night the red lanterns blur your memories a little more. A visiting doctor, pale and perfumed, once said that the human mind forgets pain faster than it forgets pleasure. He was wrong. Here, pain becomes the only thing that feels real. There's a superstition among the boys that if you can stay awake till dawn without crying, the ghosts won't find you. You try it once. The candles burn low, the air grows cold, and the shadows in the corners seem to twitch when you blink. You fail, of course. You always do. But no one laughs at you. They've all tried. It's the kind of humor that curdles in your stomach. The kind that keeps you sane. Because of course they did. The first real lesson comes the day a nobleman visits. His sedan chair blocks the alley. The girls paint their faces twice. The madam orders every candle relit, every vase polished. He doesn't choose you, of course. You're new, still clumsy, still too human. But you serve as wine. You pour, bow, refill, bow again. You watch the madam laugh, her fan fluttering like a bird desperate to escape. You watch the nobleman's hand slide over her wrist. And then you notice something that chills you more than disgust. The madam looks genuinely pleased. Later, Lin explains why. She used to be one of us, he says. Now she's just better at pretending. Weeks pass. Your body learns obedience like a reflex. Your voice becomes soft, your eyes hollow. You forget what hunger means because it's constant, like the damp in the walls. One night, you find a new boy in your room, barely 10, terrified, shaking. The madam tells you to show him how things work. You want to tell him to run. But where? Instead, you show him how to bow, how to smile, how not to cry where people can see. When he asks how long you've been here, you realize you don't know. Days melt together, each one red and dim and sticky with perfume. There's a superstition about mirrors in the house. The older boys say never look into one after midnight, or you'll see the version of yourself that still wants to live. You try it once, after everyone's asleep. The mirror's surface trembles in the candlelight. Your painted lips gleam faintly red. You look like a stranger, beautiful, almost. And that's the most horrifying part. You start laughing quietly. You can't stop. Lin shushes you, but he's smiling too. There's no malice in it, only understanding. The dry, exhausted laughter of people who've stopped expecting rescue. No one really knows why the house stays so quiet during storms. Maybe it's the ghosts. Maybe it's the memory of too many secrets drowned in the river. But when thunder rolls over the city and the red lanterns flicker in the rain, the madam lights extra incense. You kneel beside Lin in the courtyard, rain dripping down your sleeves. He mutters something about ancestors and debts. You repeat it, though you don't know what it means. And in that moment, cold, wet, shivering, you realize this. The brothel doesn't just buy your body. It buys your silence. It trains you not only to serve, but to endure. Because the guests will forget your name. The madam will forget your face. But the house will remember your obedience. And that, unfortunately, is what makes you valuable. The night begins before sunset. You can feel it coming. That quiet, feverish shift in the air when the day's humidity curdles into something darker. The lanterns are being lit one by one, their soft red glow staining the courtyard like diluted blood. The smell of roasted chestnuts and urine drifts in from the alley. A flute plays somewhere too close, too sharp. This is when the house exhales. You've been dressed already, silk robes, hair oiled and perfumed, powder so fine it coats your tongue when you breathe. The madam inspects every detail with the precision of a priest before sacrifice. Remember, she says, voice low, you are the dream they pay for. Nothing more. You bow. You try not to tremble. By dusk, the street outside the brothel becomes a river of noise. Carriages clatter over cobblestones slick with rain. Drunken laughter spills through open doors. Somewhere, someone is playing dice on the steps of a temple. Every doorway has a lantern, every lantern a promise. Pleasure for a price, warmth for a night. The Qing night market isn't really about food or music or even sex. It's about power, the small, temporary illusion of control sold to men who have too much of it already. You wait behind the beaded curtain, hands folded, eyes lowered. Lin stands beside you, posture perfect. The madam glides through the room like a shark dressed in silk. Then the guests arrive. You learn to read them before they speak. The officials walk like they own the floor, which, in a way, they do. Their fingers glitter with jade rings, their laughter too loud, too brittle. The merchants smell of sandalwood and debt. They count coins even while flirting. The poets are the worst, soft-spoken, delicate, always pretending to understand suffering while sipping the wine you pour. One of them asks for you by name. You didn't know you had one worth remembering. He's thin, pale, with a faint scar on his lip and ink stains on his fingers. He says he writes verses about sorrow. You pour his drink, listening. He asks you if you're happy here. You almost laugh. He smiles, as if he expected that. You could be, he says, if you forget you were ever anything else. Then he quotes a poem, Something about orchids growing in the shade. You nod like you understand. He leaves before dawn. You never see him again. But weeks later, you hear one of the girls humming a tune with your name in it. Apparently, you're famous now. Fame here means you earn more. It also means you bleed more. The madam upgrades your robe, adds extra rouge, instructs you to speak with refined sadness. You're not supposed to cry anymore. It's bad for business. Customers like mystery, the illusion that you want to be here, that you're enjoying it. You learn to give them that illusion. You learn how to look at someone as though you're seeing salvation instead of another transaction. It's performance, yes, but it's survival too. Because the moment you stop being beautiful, you stop being fed. Sometimes, the absurdity is almost funny. There's a military officer who insists on playing chess before every encounter, and losing. On purpose. A scholar who brings scrolls of poetry, then falls asleep mid-recital. A man who pays double just to braid your hair, humming like a lullaby to a son he probably never had. And every time, the madam watches from the hall, her eyes gleaming like polished obsidian. Because of course she does. One night, the house is visited by a magistrate. The entire staff trembles. He's old, cruel, and untouchably powerful. When he enters, everyone bows so low their foreheads touch the floor. He doesn't even look at you. He just gestures, and you're chosen. You kneel beside him, pouring wine. His hands are cold. The room is too bright, the incense too heavy. He doesn't speak for a long time, just watches you. Finally, he says, "Do you know why I come here?" You shake your head. Because I can. There's no passion in his voice. No cruelty either. Just weariness. The tired confession of a man who's forgotten what else to do with his power. Later, when he leaves, he drops a silver coin onto your tray. It's more than a week's pay. You stare at it for a long time before sliding it into your sleeve. It feels heavier than it should. Not everyone gets through the night. Sometimes a boy collapses. Fever, exhaustion, or opium too strong. The guests step over him like spilled wine. The madam orders the body removed before sunrise. No one asks where it goes. Rumor says the apothecaries buy them. Powdered bone, rendered fat, something about immortality tonics for the rich. No one knows for sure. No one dares to find out. When you ask Lin what happens to them, he just shrugs. Maybe they're finally free. It's not a comforting thought, but it's the only one that makes sense. Toward the end of the night, when the lanterns burn low and the laughter turns to coughing, the street outside grows eerily quiet. The moon hides behind clouds, and the air smells of wet ash and sweat. You stand in the doorway, exhausted, watching the customers drift away. Some leave with smiles. Some leave with shame. None look back. Inside, the madam counts her coins. The girls wipe the tables. The air grows colder by the minute. You want to step outside, just for a breath of fresh air, but you realize there hasn't been any fresh air for you since the day you arrived. The city exhales again, heavy with secrets. And you, one among many, inhale what's left. There comes a night when you stop recognizing your own reflection. The mirror in your room, once cloudy with age, now shows something sharper, someone sharper. The rouge sits perfectly on your cheeks. The kohl lines your eyes just so. The boy who once flinched at the sound of the madam's fan is gone. What's left is a creature built from powder and obedience. And it smiles beautifully. That's the part that frightens you most. You no longer know which gestures are yours and which belong to the role. You bow automatically, laugh on cue, tilt your head in practiced charm. When guests touch your wrist, you no longer feel it as violation, just routine. The mask fits too well now. You start to notice the details others don't. The faint scent of camphor on robes that hide skin diseases. The dark bruises under silk collars. The way wine smells different depending on how rich the drinker feels. The world of the brothel is a stage, and every corner hums with performance. The slow clapping of courtesans at the end of a song. The laughter that comes a beat too late. The way even the candles seem trained to flicker at the right moments. One evening, the madam brings a tailor. You are to be fitted for new robes, pale blue, embroidered with cranes. A favorite of refined guests, she explains, because you look fragile in blue. You stand still while they measure your shoulders, your waist, your throat. The tailor hums as he works, the string brushing against your skin. You'll be a beauty, he says softly. He doesn't say you already are. He says you will be, as though you're still being built. When he's done, he leaves behind a strip of silk. You keep it hidden under your mat, not as a keepsake, but as proof that once, for a moment, you were treated like something being made, not merely used. The transformation is complete the night you are invited to entertain a visiting poet, not as a servant, but as the star of the evening. The room is dim, lit by oil lamps floating in shallow bowls of water. The air smells of jasmine and old parchment. The poet asks you to sing. You don't know the song he names, but you hum anyway, voice trembling. When you finish, he applauds, once slowly. You're not like the others, he says. You want to ask why, but you don't. He pours you a cup of wine and hands it to you with the kind of tenderness that makes you suspicious. Then he adds, almost casually, men like us don't belong in daylight. The words linger long after he leaves. Days blur again, but your reflection doesn't. The more you play the part, the more it consumes you. You catch yourself adjusting your robe, even when no one's watching. You practice expressions in silence, the pout of longing, the half-smile of complicity. Lin notices. He says nothing for a long time, until one night when you're sitting together under the half-dead plum tree in the courtyard. The rain taps softly against the tiles. You've become good at this, he says. You shrug. What else is there to become? He laughs, bitterly. Human. You both stare at the wet ground for a while. Somewhere, a mouse scurries through the drains. You realize you can't remember the sound of birds anymore. A new superstition has started among the younger boys. They say that if you look into the mirror after washing your makeup off, your soul won't recognize your face and will leave your body forever. Some whisper that's how Lin's last roommate disappeared. Just gone one morning, his bedding still warm. You tell yourself it's nonsense. But you stop washing before dawn. You stop looking in mirrors altogether. There's an irony to the beauty here. It's both armor and wound. The more flawless you look, the safer you are, until someone richer decides they want to own that flawlessness. One such man arrives from Suzhou. He pays the madam a year's worth of silver to keep you exclusively. You belong to him now, though you've never seen his face clearly. He always wears a veil of scented gauze, claiming sensitivity to light. He calls you man, your house name, as though it means something sacred. He gifts you jewelry too fine for your status. Jade pendants, pearl combs, a ring that doesn't quite fit. You wear them because refusal is dangerous. When he leaves, he takes your mirror. He says he'll return it when you earn it back. You never ask what that means. You just keep performing. No one really knows why the brothel began painting its walls blue that season. Some say it was fashion, some say it was to calm the customers' tempers. But at night, under lamplight, the blue walls turn almost silver, like mirrors. You start seeing yourself everywhere, in the lacquered teapot, in the basin water, in the glazed surface of the tiled floor. Always watching, always smiling, always slightly not you. And sometimes, when you blink, the reflection doesn't blink back. The next morning, Lin is gone. No one says where. His mat is rolled neatly, his bowl empty. The madam burns incense, muttering that disobedience never ends well. You stand there, hands folded, the smell of sandalwood clawing up your throat. You remember what Lin said, human. You wonder if that's what he finally became. By now, your beauty has become a burden that breathes. It moves before you, whispers behind you, bends the air around you. Even the madam's voice softens when she speaks your name now. She calls you her lucky star, which, in this place, means profitable flesh that hasn't rotted yet. Your meals are richer. A bowl of congee with slivers of ginger, a slice of preserved plum, but you eat with guilt because you've seen the others scraping mold from rice. You know what happens when they grow too thin to sell. You're not sure what's worse, to be wanted or to be forgotten. The nights grow longer. Your skin gleams under powder. Your lips are painted a deeper red. Men pay extra just to sit near you, to listen to you talk, to pretend your laughter means something. The madam warns you never to refuse anyone. A single insult can cost the house its reputation, she says, and cost you your comfort. Comfort, that's what she calls it. The mattress that smells of camphor. The silk robe that hides bruises. The illusion of safety built from fear and cosmetics. One of your regulars is a physician. A strange one. Thin, nervous, always smelling faintly of vinegar and burnt herbs. He examines your wrists once, under the guise of flirtation. His fingers are cold. You should rest, he murmurs. Your pulse skips like a bird. You laugh softly. Rest isn't part of the service. He almost smiles, then shakes his head. You're wasting faster than you realize. He leaves a small vial on your table that night. Clear glass, cloudy liquid. No label. You never drink it. A week later, he stops coming. Someone says he died of fever. Someone else says he was executed for selling false remedies. No one really knows. The house doctor visits occasionally, but only for show. He pinches your arm, looks at your tongue, prescribes more incense and thicker paint. You learn to hide the coughing by biting your sleeve. Lynn used to cough like that, you remember. Before he vanished, the madam notices your fatigue but says nothing. You're still learning. That's all that matters. Sometimes, the absurdity of it all breaks through the fatigue like light through dirty water. You overhear two scholars arguing about morality while waiting for their turn, one quoting Confucius, the other quoting himself. You pour their wine, nodding politely, wondering if either realizes their scrolls are being used to wrap the opium cakes in the kitchen. Another guest insists on measuring your hands with a silk cord, muttering something about symmetry. He tips poorly. There's humor in it. Yes, but it's the humor of the condemned. The kind you whisper into the dark so the walls don't crush you. Then, one humid summer, sickness sweeps through the city. They call it plague, though no one dares say the word too loudly. The madam orders the windows sealed, the incense doubled, the laughter louder. If the gods hear silence, she says, they think the house has died. The guests keep coming, even as rumors spread of corpses piling in the streets. The wine still flows. The lanterns still burn. The business of pleasure never sleeps. You can smell death in the alleys, a sour, metallic stench that clings to the wind. And inside, the coughs multiply. Your reflection looks different now. The rouge can't hide the hollows under your eyes, the yellow in your skin. The powder tastes bitter when you lick your lips. You start to notice the way everyone avoids mirrors, as if afraid to confirm what they've become. A boy named Sean dies one night, quietly, between songs. They take him away before dawn, his body wrapped in his own bedding. The madam forbids anyone from crying. He was unprofitable at the end, she says. That night, you sit by the window, staring at the lanterns outside, their paper skins trembling in the rain. You think of Lynn, the physician, the boys who vanished. You wonder how many more will disappear before anyone admits this house is a graveyard with better lighting. One customer, an older merchant, brings you a gift, a tiny hand mirror framed in tortoise shell. For someone as flawless as you, he says. You thank him. Later, alone, you stare into it. The mirror is warped, but the reflection is clear enough. Red lips, soft eyes, exhaustion disguised as grace. You touch the glass. It's cold. And then, for a split second, you think you see another face behind yours. Pale, smiling, familiar. Lynn's. You blink, and it's gone. You laugh, softly. Of course, you whisper. Of course it is. The price of beauty is the slow erosion of truth. No one knows where you end and the mask begins. Maybe you don't either. The house has molded you into art, an ornament of sadness, carved from someone who once had a name. But art doesn't heal. The madam insists it's nonsense. Ghosts can't afford the entry fee, she jokes. But she burns incense at every door just the same. You used to laugh, too. But tonight, the air feels different. Heavy, wet. The smell of lotus smoke can't hide the stench of mildew. And the sound, that faint rustle, it's closer now. You whisper Lynn's name before you can stop yourself. The door slides open on its own. Just a little. Enough to make your heart stutter. For a moment, there's nothing. Then something glides past. Pale, shapeless, almost human. It pauses by your bedside, as though remembering you. You don't breathe. You can't. And then it bows. Not deeply, not theatrically, just a small, weary tilt of acknowledgement, like a servant to another servant. You blink, and it's gone. Only the scent remains, sandalwood and rain. Lynn's scent. You could scream. You could pray. But you do neither. Instead, you whisper, "You shouldn't be here." The silence that answers feels almost kind. Maybe ghosts visit not to haunt, but to check who's left. Maybe the dead simply want to see that their misery wasn't wasted. That someone still remembers. You lie back down, eyes open, heart galloping. You can't tell if you're terrified or comforted. In the morning, the madam finds you pale and trembling. "Bad dreams again?" she asks, not unkindly. You nod. She sighs, sits beside you, and lights another stick of incense. "The living are worse than ghosts," she mutters. "At least ghosts don't ask for credit." You almost smile. Almost. Then she presses a copper coin into your palm. "For protection," she says. "Keep it under your tongue when you sleep." The dead can't cross metal. You obey, not because you believe her, but because belief itself has become a kind of luxury. That night, you dream of the river, wide, black, endless. You're standing at its edge, holding the coin. Lynn is there, on the other side, waiting. He looks whole again, unbroken, unafraid. He opens his mouth to speak, but no sound comes out. Only a single red petal drifts from his lips, lands on the water, and dissolves. You wake with the taste of copper and blood in your mouth. As days pass, the house grows quieter. Fewer customers, fewer songs. The sickness outside is spreading. Even desire is contagious now. The madam forbids mirrors entirely. Too many have cracked in the heat, or maybe from something else. You hear that one of the girls saw her own reflection blink before she did. At night, the rustling returns. Sometimes it's at your door, sometimes by the stairs. Once, you swear you feel a hand brush your ankle. Not malicious, just lonely. You start leaving the window unlatched, as if inviting the dead some air. One evening, while preparing tea, you find a wilted lotus petal stuck to the bottom of your bowl. No one else uses lotus here. It's too expensive. You pick it up, trembling. The smell is faint, but unmistakable. You whisper, "Lynn?" Nothing answers. But later, as you pass the mirror in the hall, you glimpse something in the reflection, a second figure walking behind you, blurred and gentle. It vanishes before you turn, and somehow, you're no longer afraid. The next few nights, you sleep better. Not dreamless, just lighter. You start to imagine that the ghosts aren't haunting you at all. Maybe they're keeping you company. Maybe the afterlife begins early in houses like this. And maybe the reason the city never truly sleeps is because the dead keep it awake. The madam notices you're calm and warns you to hide it. "Happiness looks suspicious here," she says. "Men prefer tragedy. It flatters them." You nod. You smile the right way. You return to your room, light the candle, and whisper to the air, "I'm still here." The air stirs, faintly, a brush of warmth against your cheek, like the ghost of a breath. And for the first time in years, you fall asleep without paint, without prayer, without pretending. You dream of the house, empty and silent, all the lanterns extinguished. In the courtyard, the magnolia tree is blooming again, though no one's left to see it. The petals fall like ash, and when they touch the ground, they don't rot. They glow. Morning never really arrives here. It leaks in, gray and reluctant, through the cracks in paper windows and the gaps between warped floorboards. It smells of rice gruel, cheap soap, and ashes swept from last night's lanterns. You rise before the others, as usual. Habit, not discipline. Your body has learned to anticipate exhaustion before it begins. You pull the thin robe tighter around your chest and step onto the cold floor. The wood bows beneath your feet, like something tired of carrying so many quiet ghosts. You can hear the city outside, faint, distorted, like a dream someone else is having. The clatter of carts. A peddler shouting about peaches you can't afford. A dog barking at nothing. Life continues, because of course it does. You catch your reflection in a small shard of mirror you've kept hidden. Just a sliver, stolen from the time before the madam forbade them. It shows only your mouth and one eye. Enough. You study the cracks around the pupil, the lines that didn't exist a year ago. The paint is gone, but the face still looks like a mask. No one ever tells you how long a life like this lasts. Downstairs, the madam counts coins. Each sound of metal is sharp, deliberate. You can tell she's short on silver again. Her lips tighten after every 10th clink. She doesn't look up as she says, "We've lost 2 more. You don't ask who. You don't have to. She adds, 1 to the fever, 1 to debt. Then, more softly, "You should thank the gods you're still standing." You almost laugh. It comes out as a cough. By midday, the first customer arrives. A minor clerk, his face flushed with rice wine and disappointment. He talks too much about his exams, his boss, his loneliness. You listen, nod, pour tea that tastes faintly of dust. When he reaches for you, his hands shake. Not from lust, from age, from fear. You recognize that tremor. You've worn it yourself. He calls you beautiful boy. You think about correcting him. You're neither, not really, but you don't. You know the rhythm of the performance. He leaves money on the pillow, more out of guilt than desire. After he goes, you count the coins, then stop halfway. You stare at the doorway, at the sunlight slanting in like an accusation. Something inside you whispers, you could just walk out. You've thought it before. Many have. You even know the route. Down the back stairs, past the alley where the cats feed on scraps, across the river bridge, through the maze of laundry lines and pawn shops. You could vanish into the city's belly. But vanish to where? The others who left never came back, but rumors did. That one ended up in a temple, pretending to be a eunuch to scrub floors. Another found a foreigner who bought him, not as a lover, but as a curiosity. And one was found face down in the canal, coins sewn into his sleeves, as if the river charged a toll. So you stay? Later that night, the madam hosts a rare feast, a visiting merchant with money to burn. The house glows again for a few hours. Lanterns relit, perfume thick enough to choke on, laughter loud enough to hide the cracks in the walls. You play the pipa, strings biting your fingers, and watch him through the haze. He's young, smug, wearing the kind of silk that never sees sweat. His eyes move lazily from one body to another, weighing them like livestock. When his gaze lands on you, he grins. "That one," he says. You bow. The motion is automatic. The room, he takes you to smells of plum wine and burned sugar. He talks, touches, talks again, about his travels, his investments, his wife. Always his wife. The sound of her name makes your stomach twist. At one point, he asks what your name means. You hesitate. You barely remember the one you were born with. You give him the house name instead, the one the madam chose for you. Sweet and meaningless. He smiles. Pretty. And for a second, you believe him. After he leaves, you sit in silence. The candle burns low, leaving a circle of melted wax that looks like a small, failed moon. You blow it out and sit there until your eyes adjust to the dark. Then, from somewhere deep in the house, you hear it. A sound like a bell, faint and uneven. Not a temple bell, a warning bell. You stand, open the window, and see smoke rising in the distance. A fire. Maybe another brothel, maybe just another accident. The city doesn't differentiate. You think of Lynn, of the ghosts, of the river that waits for everything eventually. You whisper, "I'll meet you there." The next morning, you wake before dawn. The sky is pale, the color of old paper. You pack nothing. There's nothing worth taking. The robe on your back, the coin under your tongue, the memory of a name that no longer fits. You slip through the back door, past the kitchen, past the piles of damp firewood. No one stops you. No one even looks up. The street outside is empty, except for a single stray dog gnawing on a bone. It watches you for a moment, then goes back to eating. You start walking. Slowly. The air smells of rain. You cross the river bridge just as the sun breaks through the mist. The water below is brown and alive, carrying petals, ash, maybe even a little hope. You stop in the middle, lean over the rail, and drop the copper coin from your mouth. It vanishes instantly, swallowed without a ripple. You exhale, tasting the faint metallic ghost it leaves behind. And for the first time in years, you feel, not free, exactly, but weightless. You keep walking. No destination, no plan. The city yawns open ahead of you, vast and filthy and full of stories that no one wants to tell. You are one of them now, just another body in the tide. The bells begin to ring somewhere far behind you, slow and solemn. You don't look back. The light fades again, as if the world exhales with you. You think of red lanterns dimming one by one, of footsteps fading on the wet street, of voices curling into silence. And when the quiet finally settles, it's not lonely, it's merciful. The house, the river, the faces, the ghosts, all of it drifts away, like incense smoke dissolving into morning air. And you, once a brothel boy in a city that forgot your name, simply keep walking, until the sound of your own breathing is the only thing left.